In a forgotten corner of the imperial court, there lived a girl hidden behind scrolls, silence, and secrets. They called her a scribe, a servant, a whisper. But none knew the truth. That in the pavilion, where petals fall like snow, a revolution of the heart had begun. Sparkles, this is Maiden of the Pavilion, a velvet story. Episode 1, The Veiled One. From the story Maiden of the Pavilion. In the furthest wing of the imperial palace, past lacquered gates and moon-shaped corridors, stands a small wooden structure shaded by weeping plum trees. It has no name to the common tongue, only whispers in passing. The hollow pavilion, where forgotten letters sleep, where the veiled one waits. It is there, in the shadow of silent scrolls and candlelight, that ruin lives, if this can be called living. Each morning, before the ink has warmed, they rise. Quiet, unhurried, moving like water through corridors of hush. Their face is never seen. A veil of layered silk, smoke-colored, like morning mist, shields them. Always. Some say they were born under a broken star. Others say the Empress hid them from the gods out of pity. But the truth is neither beautiful nor wicked. The truth is simply, ruin was unwanted. Not by all, but by enough. Ruin is a scribe, or rather, a keeper of murmurs, as the old archivists used to say. They do not copy simple text. They transcribe final confessions, unspoken regrets, wills never sent, poems that trembled in secret hearts. The hollow pavilion is not a place of power. It is a place of memory. And ruin remembers everything. Words, they once whispered to the inkstone, carry more heat than flame, and more frost than ice. That morning, the pavilion was still. The wind rattled a wind chime of thin porcelain leaves, a sound like shattered thoughts. Ruin sat by the eastern window, scroll unfurled, brush trembling slightly in hand. The letter before them was unsigned. The characters were delicate, precise, but bled sorrow like tea through paper. To the one I wronged beneath the crescent camphor, forgive me. Even now, your absence rings louder than your voice ever did. The ink had not dried. And yet, the seal was over 10 years old. Ruin's hand hovered, unwilling to copy it just yet. Instead, they placed the brush down, fingers lingering on the paper. And then, the door slid open. A rustle, soft footsteps, not the usual steward, whose breath smelled of vinegar and yam wine. This one was taller, more precise, like a dancer trying not to be noticed. Is this the pavilion of forgotten records? A voice asked, low, melodic, etched with a foreign cadence. Ruin turned but did not rise. They bowed instead, deeply, wordlessly. The man stepped into view. Sunlight sliced his silhouette into gold and charcoal. He wore travel-dusted robes of muted crimson, and a smile that didn't quite match his eyes. I was told, he said, a veiled scribe lived here. One who could read sorrow better than scholars read stars. No response. Are you mute? Still silence. The man chuckled, not unkindly. I'm Kayan, envoy from the southern reaches. I've come for a record, something buried in your archives. A scroll addressed to the Empress, Year of the Dying Rose, sealed in lapis wax. It never arrived. He studied ruin as one studies a half-forgotten portrait, not quite knowing why it stirs the heart. You won't speak, will you? Ruin finally moved. A slow nod, then a gesture, an elegant tilt of the wrist, beckoning him inside. The pavilion seemed smaller with him in it. He waited as Ruin searched. The moments stretched long, filled only with the sound of parchment breathing. Kayan's eyes flicked to the window, where the plum branches tapped as if knocking. Do you ever tire of silence? He asked softly. Ruin paused, then, unexpectedly, dipped the brush in ink and wrote one word on the edge of a scrap. Never. Kayan blinked. Why? Another brush stroke. It never lies. That night, long after he left, Ruin sat alone with the letter again. The one that spoke of crescent camphor trees and absence that rang. They copied it carefully, but with a twist. A small mark, imperceptible to others, that would only be noticed by someone who felt the meaning, not just read it. Their brush lingered on the last line. They remembered a voice, a hand, a warmth once offered and taken away. And then, for the first time in months, they whispered aloud to the empty air. "What do you want from me, Kyan?" The wind did not answer. But the candle swayed, and in its flicker, the veil on their face moved, not enough to reveal, but just enough to breathe. Chapter 2, Scent of Burned Plum Ink. From the story, Maiden of the Pavilion. The hollow pavilion was not meant for winter. Its doors warped in the cold. Its scrolls breathed frost before they were touched. Ink stiffened in its pots like slumbering snakes, waiting for warmth to wake. But Ruin did not complain, not aloud, not even in thought. Complaint required desire, and desire invited disappointment. So they moved as always, steady, graceful, unspoken. Today, however, something strange happened. It began with a scent. Not the familiar sweetness of pressed plum blossoms, nor the bitter touch of dried foxglove parchment, but something burned. Bitter, smoky, like sorrow that had been kissed by fire. Ruin found it folded beneath a stack of imperial scrolls wrapped in red silk. A poem, unsigned, written in hand so delicate it looked like breath. The characters were dark violet, the ink singed at the edges, as though it had been dried too close to flame. They read, "One writes to the void not to be answered, but to echo." Yet tonight, I found the echo walked on quiet feet, and wore a veil of silence. There was no name, no sender, but someone had written about them. Ruin's pulse fluttered, a rare betrayal. They stared at the lines, not once, not twice, but again and again. Was it Kyan? No, that was ridiculous, too forward, too poetic. Still, the scent, plum ink burned on the edge, was not an imperial fragrance. Southern provinces used it. Diplomats, especially, perfumed their correspondence this way. So it could be. No, too dangerous to assume. They folded the poem carefully, slipping it between the pages of their private ledger, a journal no one had seen. Not even the chief archivist. And just as the wind sighed through the paper screens, a guard's voice echoed beyond the hall. "Did you hear?" one whispered. "The veiled one cried this morning." I passed the garden and saw them. Head bowed, shoulders shaking. Another voice answered, gruffly. "Crying? That one? Doesn't even speak. Probably possessed." Ruin sat very still. Had they cried? They didn't think so. Perhaps their eyes had stung. The poem had stirred something. But crying? No. That must have been the candle smoke. Or memory. Or something even softer, hope. Later that day, Kyan returned. He did not knock, only appeared as he had before, sunlight behind him, a silent brush of wind at his heels. "You filed the scroll I requested," he said. "Thank you." He placed a parcel on the table. Wrapped in deep green linen, tied with red twine. "Tea, from my province. Thought you might like it." Ruin did not reach for it. Kyan raised a brow. "Still don't speak?" Ruin's fingers moved to the brush, but then hesitated. Instead, they bowed slightly. Kyan leaned against the post and smiled faintly. "You remind me of a swan I once saw. Injured. Stayed very still, but its eyes never stopped watching the world." He said no more, and did not ask about the poem. But when he turned to leave, Ruin caught the faintest scent trailing behind him, burnt plum ink. That night, unable to sleep, Ruin opened the ledger. They copied the poem carefully, line by line, beneath their own quiet scribbles. And beneath it, they wrote one line in return. "Echoes may walk, but they still disappear when the world wakes." They closed the book gently. Their hands lingered on the soft leather, warming it. Then, without fully understanding why, they opened a second drawer, one that had not been touched in years, and retrieved a brush made of snow fox fur. Their personal brush, unused since the last time they trusted someone with a letter. Chapter 3, The Emissary's Gaze. From the story, Maiden of the Pavilion. The pavilion was not built for visitors. Its paths were too narrow, its doors too thin. It creaked when stepped upon, like it resented footsteps heavier than parchment. But Kyan came anyway. Not daily, no, he was cleverer than that. He arrived every third day, at slightly different hours, never overstaying, never prying too obviously. Still, his presence rippled across the stillness like a fingertip through ink. On the fourth visit, Ruin noticed something. Cain no longer looked at them. He looked through them, or rather, around them, like one watching candlelight flicker behind a paper screen. "I've made another request," he said. "To read letters from the reign of the dying Rose Empress." Ruin blinked. Those were sealed documents. Restricted. Even they needed special permission to touch them. Cain smiled, as if hearing their thought. "I know, but I'm not just an emissary. I'm also a reader of silences, of gaps in history. Sometimes, what's missing is louder than what's written." He placed his hand lightly on the table. "I think you know that better than anyone." Ruin didn't respond, but they felt it again, the peculiar heat in Cain's gaze, not lustful, not predatory. Just unafraid, as though the veil didn't exist at all. Later that day, Minister Jian appeared. An old man with a scholar's posture and a swordsman's eyes. His fingers glittered with jade rings, clicking faintly as he sorted through sealed scrolls. "This place smells of ghosts," he muttered. "And yet, here they put you, the one no one dares to see." Ruin bowed, not bothering to hide their dislike. "The southern envoy visits you often, yes?" he asked. "Does he stare too long? Speak too sweetly? These diplomats charm with one hand and steal with the other." He paused. "You are not fool enough to be used, are you?" Ruin made no answer, but later, they wrote something in their personal ledger. "Not all kindness is deception. Some is just rare." That night, the pavilion was quiet, but the world around it was not. In the court beyond, whispers fluttered. A lost heirloom had gone missing. A sealed edict had been broken. And someone claimed the hollow pavilion still held letters from a princess who never existed. Ruin sat in their small garden behind the pavilion, brush in hand. But did not write. Not yet. Cain's voice echoed from earlier. "I think you know what silence hides." Suddenly, a soft voice called from behind. "Don't trust them." Ruin turned. Lingua stood there, red scarf knotted at her throat, cheeks flushed from running. "They think you're weak. You are not. But they'll try to make you weak, just to prove it." Ruin frowned gently, asking without asking. Lingua stepped closer and whispered. "Minister Jian. He doesn't believe you're ordinary. Says there's something unnatural about your memory. That you were trained to read secrets between brush strokes. That's why they keep you veiled." She placed a small pouch beside Ruin, dried tea leaves. "Drink this if you get anxious. It settles the spirit." And then she was gone. Later, as rain struck the paper walls, Ruin unrolled a new scroll. It bore the seal of the Southern Court, but had no ink. Blank, or almost. Holding it to candlelight revealed faint words, like breath trapped in silk. "If truth is too heavy to speak, would you carry it in silence, with me?" No name, no mark, but the burnt plum scent was unmistakable. Ruin pressed the scroll to their chest. And for the first time since their wailing, they longed to speak. Not to the court, not to their keepers, but to him. When the ink dries, will the truth vanish with it? Or will one quiet voice echo through centuries of silence? Flower Petal, thank you for watching. Maiden of the Pavilion. Black Nib exclusively from the Velvet Story. Bell like, subscribe, and return to the Pavilion, where silence speaks louder than swords. Until next time.